Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare. All right, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. How are you all doing tonight? People are feeling good? Yes? Okay, me too. So this is our question and answer session we do every night here at the Rishikesh Kirtan Fest. It's a simple program. It's a classic program. It's been going on for many centuries. It's practically the essence of how this tradition is handed down over the ages, just questions and answers. And it all begins with a question. Would someone like to get the evening started? Yes, Sanjay.
Hare Krishna. Unqualified question. It's deep curiosity. Mahamantra. Why these particular words in this running order?
I don't exactly know. But we'll share something. It's a mystery. There are commentaries written by great saints, and different ones share their ideas. Now, the mantra comes from the Upanishads. What is that? The Kalisantara Upanishad, I believe. We've been speaking, actually, it's something I've been speaking about over several of the nights. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was one of several ecstatic, spiritual Krishna Bhaktas in the area of Vrindavan in the 15th century. And together, these very deep spiritual Krishna Bhaktas were taking what was there in the Vedanta and churning it more. Churning it from what was first kind of churned out of it through Shankara was that one can find moksha through these, relief from the sufferings of this world, a realization of one's own eternality, a freedom from the illusion that I need external things for my happiness, that my nature is happiness, that I'm beyond all of these temporary roles and identities, that none of them are me. I'm beyond all that. I am spirit, aham brahmasmi. Shankara is saying you can churn this out of Vedanta and experience something special. And then the Bhakti yogis came along in the centuries following Shankara. They churned it more. They said that that's nice, but there's something much more, actually. That if you churn this wisdom, look deeper into these verses, look from another perspective, and you can see that there's a much deeper message. And that message is that divine love is a much higher thing. That's really the highest stage of evolution that one can find. And these texts are sharing that. Try to understand. Look deeper into these. You'll see this. And they write commentaries. See this verse? Previously was understood this way, but look, understand it this way. Or haven't you noticed this verse? It's saying that there's much more. And they're helping us get a perspective on the different sacred texts. There's the Vedas, there's the Upanishads, then there's the Mahabharata with the Bhagavad Gita, then there's all the Puranas. And they're saying, look, if you look over here, it's going to help you understand the earlier texts, and you can make sense. There's something deeper, and this is love. So that's bhakti. That really began, becoming. It's always been there. Divine love has always been there, and divine love is in all of these sacred texts. Although sometimes it's like a river that's running underground. You have to tap in to get it to flow. If you read the Vedas, it's there. Sometimes it comes up like a little bit of a creek. It goes back under. Then it starts to teach more about how to get the things of this world through being pious and cultivating good karma. The devotion part seems to be a little bit underground. Then it pops up here and there with beautiful prayers to the Purusha. There's a divine being. You offer everything to that being. Then you have the Upanishads. They're giving a deeper message. Devotion is still flowing through there like an underwater river. And occasionally it pops up. And there's some verse that speaks to the Supreme and approaching that Supreme through love. There's even a whole Upanishad. There's 108 Upanishads. And there's one that's just like wholly dedicated to understanding Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, this Gopal Tapani Upanishad. But hardly anybody hears about that. It's like way in the background. It's real quiet. It's not, it's not. There's about 10 to 13 Upanishads that people really read and study and speak about a lot. So it's there, but it's a little hidden, that devotional essence. But in the Bhagavad Gita, that's like churning and saying, come on, let's take this higher. It's very direct. And then you get texts like Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and they go still further. So Sri Chaitanya was part of this group that was saying, let's take bhakti still further. We're understanding that yes, as the great acharyas like Ramanuja and Madhva taught 1,000 years ago, 800 years ago, they showed us that bhakti was the deeper message in all of this. But there's something still more. And that's not just love of God with this reverence, which is the most common way God is approached through the world's different spiritual traditions. But God can be loved with intimacy. God can be loved like a friend loves another friend, where they're not even thinking this is God. God can be loved like a parent loves a child, where they think they need me, right? There's something. How many parents do we have here? Please raise your hand. Okay. Isn't there something special in the feeling of love when the object of your love needs you? Isn't there something incredibly sweet and enriching in that feeling? So some souls want to feel that feeling in relation to the supreme object of love, to God. That intimacy is facilitated. But in order to really feel that, you have to forget that this being is God. Otherwise, they don't need me, I need them. Right? So this intimate love is, all of this is showed in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, in the 10th canto, the stories of Krishna's life. And there also you see this romantic love, the love of the gopis of Vrindavan, right? The most intense, of all loves. So again, about 500 years, in the 15th century, Sri Chaitanya was one of a group of deep spiritual bhaktas that were saying, this is the ultimate. Not just bhakti, not just love of God, but this intimate type of love. Not only is it the most overwhelming experience for the practitioner or for the devotee, but it's what moves God's heart. It's said that it even conquers God, this type of love. Okay, so Sri Chaitanya, he's feeling intense desire. I'm feeling this, I'm tasting it. He's running around Vrindavan and he's feeling this love. I want to give it to the world. This is his thing. And the way he does it is he says, reach out to this mantra, this Mahamantra. So that mantra, it was always there. There's always some sages chanting that mantra. But he said the world needs this mantra now. He went back and he found this mantra, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And there we see, what is it composed of? 3 names. First is Hare, which is actually the vocative form. I'm not great with grammar. I didn't go to college. But at least I understand that the vocative form of a word is when you're calling out to a person. It's like saying, hey, Sanjaya. So Hare is like saying, hey, Hara. And it's calling out to Radha, who is Hara. So that's the name of Radharani. Hare Krishna. Oh, Radha, Krishna. It's like this, praying like that, right? And then Rama, right? Now, sometimes people say, is this Rama, like Ramachandra? In one sense, Ramachandra is Krishna too, but we can understand that Rama means Krishna. Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure. So Krishna means that supreme absolute truth, which is all attractive, which is everything about Krishna. You know, so much of our life, so much of our energy, so much of our bandwidth of our mind is spent trying to be attractive to the people of this world. Whether it's physically attractive, whether it's gaining some type of prestige, some type of honor, we spend our lives trying to become the center, trying to become attractive. One of the deepest lessons we can learn in life is, why don't I just let Krishna be the attractive one? Right? He already plays that role perfectly, and he can handle unlimited beings being attracted to him. When someone's karma is such that they start to become the center of attraction in a big way, usually we can't handle it. Usually people start to fall apart. Right? I've been saying, you know, there used to be this television show where it was about all the different rock stars in the life arc that they all go through. You know, when they're unknown and they're struggling to become known, to become the attractive ones. And then finally they get their break and they're starting to climb up and it's really exciting. All their desires are being fulfilled. Oh my God, this is so great. And everybody's attracted to us. We step out on the stage, thousands of people attracted to us, you know. We're on television and etc. And then they can't handle it. There's drugs and wildness, and then they crash, you know. Usually it involves a motorcycle accident or a car accident, you know, and then they kind of go through, then their music is not as popular anymore, so they were attractive, but now they're not. That's the nature of the material world. It's going through ups and downs. Then they're struggling to try to make a comeback, but nobody's really interested. They're kind of passé now. That's a whole thing. If they're fortunate, they come to terms with that. What if we just decided right now, let Krishna be the attractive one, right? If I'm going to shine, I'll shine in relation to Krishna, right? I'll shine in relation to Krishna. So Krishna means all attractive, right? Attractive to every living being. Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure. Again, it's speaking of Krishna. And Hare is crying out to Radha. So the mantra is Radha Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radha Radha. Radha Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radha Radha. And that is something of a dance there. There is, I should study this more. Thank you for asking this question. Because I do want to read these commentaries more. I've read them in the past, but I should review them. And we should always be going back, never being lackadaisical, especially about these most fundamental practices. But sometimes in mantra, the repetition is important because the idea is to get the mind very focused. And sometimes by repetition, just like if you want to drill into the ground, you drill in the same spot again and again and again and again and until you hit. And so the repetition in the mantra can focus the mind. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Get into that vibration. Somehow within this vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, chanting a congregation like this is said to be the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga avatar, Sri Chaitanya, this is his prescription. He particularly picked this mantra with the idea that everything is in it. One can find not just moksha, not just bhakti, but the deepest bhakti of the intimate lovers of God is all found in it. So, therefore, it's considered to be very special. There's power in it. There's no doubt. I've shared when I first heard people chanting these mantras, to me it seemed silly. I was 15 years old, skeptical of everything. Seeing these people just repeat this word, was it like abracadabra? It's like some kind of magic potion or something. But who am I, some ignorant 15-year-old person? Those real sages who have a deeper capacity to understand that everything in this world, every atom is vibrating. So sound is everywhere, and sound has incredible power. right? And it's said that this sound is the greatest sound of all the sounds, because this sound is non-different from God, who's the origin of all the other vibrations. So we turn our mind to that channel. You know, we all have the opportunity to do that. We allow our minds to be the dial of our mind to be dialed on so many insignificant, unimportant distractions. The great Bhakti Yogis are saying, hey, spend some time every day. You dial it right to this mantra, and you keep it there, right? Enter into it. Focus your mind on it. Meditate on it. Open up your heart to it. Feel it. Allow your body and your mind to vibrate in it, and you'll feel something very special. Thank you, Sanjay. Yes.
Thank you. You were talking about japa last night, and so I find myself not like sitting still to chant, but I find myself chanting throughout the day when I'm driving, when I'm cooking, you know, even when I was listening to you last night, I was chanting. So is that like okay, or should I really focus on trying to really sit and focus?
Chanting is always okay, right? It's always good. At the same time, there's chanting. You good? Thank you, Sanjay. What a gentleman. We want to chant attentively, because when we're chanting, we're calling to God. And so kind of like it's, if you invite someone to your house but ignore them, then it's practically insulting, right? So, but at the same time, we want to chant. I'm not saying when you chant, you can chant while you're driving and be attentive. But in order to get there, I believe, you really have to spend more concentrated time chanting and familiarize yourself with the feeling of being connected to that mantra. So I would suggest you chant all the time, but that you spend some time in concentrated, meditative, deeply meditative chanting on the mantra. And that's, as you're suggesting, that's not easy to do. In this day and age, meditation is very difficult. That's why the Sāṅkhya is the recommended method in the sacred texts for this age, because it's easier to sing and dance in a group and have your mind be fully absorbed than it is to sit still and meditate on a mantra. Yet still we meditate on that mantra. It enriches everything for us. And it's an opportunity to have a personal relationship with Krishna through Krishna's names, with Radha and Krishna. Yeah.
So maybe to start like slow and not think, okay, I have to sit for an hour, like maybe do 15 minutes and then work my way up.
You read my mind. This is exactly where I was going. You know, that which is difficult becomes easier if we do it in stages. This is one thing I've realized in my own life, is that there are things that are hard for us to do. And generally, if we stick to it, within a short time, it becomes much easier. Like, for instance, sometimes people, they take a New Year's resolution and they say, I want to jog. I want to become, I see these people jogging all the time. They look healthy. They look vibrant. I want to be one of those people. I just sit around at home all day. I know it's not good for my health. I want to be like one of these joggers. And so starting on January 1st, I go out and I jog, and I'm going to do like 5 miles every day. And then you go out on the first day and you start to jog, and almost instantly your heart is beating, you're huffing and you're puffing, you're feeling very uncomfortable. And you say, I don't know if I can do this. And you try it maybe the second day and it's just as bad, even worse. And you say, this isn't for me, this is for other people. But actually, if you would have done just a little bit and stuck with it, it becomes easier once you get over that bump. So people say, I want to read a book. I want to read a book once a month. I'm going to start being a reader. I spend all my time watching television. My brain is rotting away. I'm going to be one of these readers. And then they sit down, they open up a book, and after 2 pages, they're like bored. And they're like, oh, enough, I'm turning on the television. But if they just stick with it a little bit, after a week, it's going to start to get easier, right? And so we shouldn't doubt that these things that we're called upon to do in the yoga tradition are going to be so difficult that we can't do them. Stick with them. And as you're saying, do it a little bit in the beginning. Once, Srila Prabhupada, when he first brought bhakti to the West, you know, the first place he went was the Lower East Side of New York. And then the next place he went was San Francisco. And do you know when that was when he was in San Francisco? Anybody know what year? 1967. What was that called in San Francisco? Huh? The Summer of Love. Haight-Ashbury. Right? It was like this whole explosion of hippiness going on. Like the whole, it was just this wild scene. And Srila Prabhupada, this saintly gentleman from India, pops into the middle of it. And somehow he just had the ability to just like kind of like work his way right into that scene and share what he had. But his disciples were so new to this tradition. And so like some of them were like addicted to smoking cigarettes. And that's, you know, something Vaishnavas leave behind. And he had one disciple and he was like saying, I smoke 2 packs a day. And he said, okay, so how many cigarettes are in a pack? Is it 20 or 40 or something like that? I forget how many there are. Anybody know? Look at all you innocent people. You don't even know. Anybody know how many cigarettes in a pack? Huh? 20. So there's 20 cigarettes in a pack. And so he's smoking 40 cigarettes a day. So he said, what you do is every day you just smoke one less. Right? He didn't just say just stop, but every day you smoke 40 today, 39 the next day. Day after that, 38. You know, you're not falling apart. Right? He says you keep going and by the time you're done, you'll just be able to leave him behind. And the disciple followed that instruction and exactly as he said. You know, exactly as he said. So, although it may be hard to keep our mind focused on the mantra, we should try to give at least some time really exclusively to it, real concentrated meditation. And connect everything in your life to that. Connect how you behave with other people with that. See it all as important. See your reading of the sacred text and the hearing of Krishna's pastimes as connected to that chanting. See how you relate to your family, how you relate to every living being as connected to that. See how you tolerate the difficulties in life as connected to that. See how you're challenged to become humble as connected to that. See your respect to other living beings and demanding no respect from other living beings as connected to that. And the bandwidth will start to open up in your mind, especially if you chant with other people that are deep devotees. You spend time around them. It begins to stir up in you, I want to be like more, I can be more like them. Right? And that mantra will no longer just seem like some odd combination of words, you know, random combination of words. But you'll begin to feel that all the beauty and all the power of Sri Krishna and Sri Radha and their love and all of their pastimes and the beauty of it all is all right in that mantra. That you have a connection to everything of the spiritual realm in that mantra. And it'll become more and more meaningful to you. And that time that you have exclusively with that mantra can become the most beautiful, sacred, wonderful, satisfying time in your day. Like that. It'll come. It'll come. Thank you very much. Yes, question? No? Yes.
Thank you.
It's not too hard.
No. Could you, if it's not appropriate, then it's not appropriate. Can you distinguish between Sāṅkhya, Jñāna, and Buddhi Yoga?
So these are all terms that we find, all three in Bhagavad Gita. Sāṅkhya literally means to count, and it's a very specific form of Jnana. It's a particular application of Jnana means knowledge, particularly the knowledge by which we discern between what is real and what is unreal. Sāṅkhya is a specific way of doing that, which involves counting all the different material elements. They break it down into 24. So there's with the 5 senses, the 5 objects of the senses, then there's sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, etc. Then so that's 15. Then they add to that the senses of action, which is another 5. So now you got 20. And then you got, what is it? The 3 modes of material nature. Is that what it is? And then it adds up to 24. And the idea is that by breaking down all the material elements, you can, it's almost like, it's like taking a machine apart and laying it all out on a table. All the parts are there. You're taking the entire material realm and you're laying it all out on the table, and you realize, I'm not there on the table, right? I'm the one that's looking at everything on the table. I'm apart from all of this. I am not material. If everything that's material is on the table and I'm not on the table, I am aham brahmasmi. I'm the one that's looking at it. So it's a way of analysis. It's a particular application of Jnana. Jnana is a broader category of just engaging in that, in hearing Jnana as it's handed down in the sacred texts, especially Upanishads are known for that, and contemplating it, reflecting on it. And Buddhi Yoga is taking that Jnana and using it as a filter for whatever comes through our senses. Because whatever comes through our senses has to be processed. It's just like we process things in a computer that get processed through certain apps. So there's one app on the computer of the mind called the Buddhi. And that's the reflective app. That's the discerning app. That's the reasoning app. And so it's saying, inform that application. Just like you can download, like if you have an app like ChatGPT, you can download like a text to ChatGPT and say, analyze the following according to the text that I just shared with you. You can do that with your own application, with your own reasoning faculty. You can inform it by hearing the Upanishads, by hearing Bhagavad Gita, by hearing Puranas, etc. You download that information in. You keep it fresh by reflecting on it. And then whatever information comes through the senses, you process it through that. So one person, let's say two people are looking at the same object, right? Let's say the form of the opposite sex, right? That bodily form. And so one person sees that form and says, I can find my happiness in the arms of that form. Touching the smooth skin of that form brings pleasure. This is the goal. This is where happiness lies. My effort should be engaged in trying to find that warmth. Then I will find my happiness. That's how they process it. And then that memory gets stored with those feelings. When they see a form like that again, those feelings immediately rise, and that's how their operating system is functioning. Buddhi Yoga means I take the knowledge of the Upanishads, take the Jnana of the Upanishads, take the Jnana of the Puranas, Mahabharata, etc. Download it into my reasoning application. Whatever comes through that same form comes through my mind, I say, I see the attractive quality of it, but I also know my own nature. I know that I am made of spirit. I know that that form is made of matter. I know that my existence is beyond that form. My existence is superior to that form, and yet I have the potential for this material energy to cover my knowledge, to confuse me, to leave me bewildered, to make me identify with my body, and therefore drag me backwards on my path to freedom. So let me recognize what that form is, and let me understand that my happiness is not exactly found in the arms of that form, but my happiness really lies within. So in this way, you're processing it through a filter. That's Buddhi Yoga. So knowledge is the information of truth. Sāṅkhya is one particular way of applying that knowledge. Buddhi Yoga is kind of, I suppose, Jnana is like the bigger circle, Buddhi Yoga, and then within that Sāṅkhya. Two different ways of applying, you could say Sāṅkhya is one form of Buddhi Yoga. Yeah. Is that all right? Okay, thank you. Oh, such important stuff to think about. Right? Otherwise, we're just being dragged around. We're just being dragged around by the senses and the programming of the mind, thinking that we're free. And really, I say it's like a bull. They put a little ring in its nose. Even though that being is so powerful, a little child can pull that bull along, right? When it has that ring in its nose. And so in the same way, the soul is so powerful. It's so far beyond the realm of the material energy. And yet we have a ring in our nose and we get pulled around by the material energy. Right? You ever see, sometimes if a person has a little piece of meat and there's a dog there, they can go like this and hold it in front of the dog, and the dog is, if you bring it over here, the dog's like, then bring it over here, the dog, if you lift it up, the dog's up on its hind legs and you move it, you just see, it's like, it's not free. It's thinking, I'm going for what's going to make me happy. It's not realizing, I'm being manipulated here. Right? This person's making a fool of me. And the dog doesn't just sit here and say, okay, I'm not playing this game anymore. Right? But no, it's controlled, right? Because within its mind, it's thinking that's where the happiness lies. So are we like that? Are we just being pulled over here, dancing dog, in the hands of the material energy? Go over here, come on up, come on down. So Buddhi Yoga means I see what's going on. I've learned how to resist it. I can free myself. I can become free. Okay. Any more questions? Just getting started. Yes. Sat Nam.
Hi, good evening. There must be many, many versions of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by many different people. Maybe, I don't know. But I know that the Prabhupada books are always, first and foremost within this community. His writing or his translation style isn't my favorite. Can you recommend another version of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that maybe is more poetic or that has, I don't know, just something different with it?
I really can't. I know who is the writer. She wrote 3 translations. She did Mahabharata Ramayana and she did Bhagavatam. Kamala Subramaniam, I think was her name, if I'm remembering right. Is that right? It may be Kamala. They're kind of like orange-colored volumes. I liked her Mahabharata for the most part. I never read her Bhagavatam. What I read that's different, I appreciate Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. And anything that I read besides that is the commentaries of the great acharyas on the same verses. It's going to be the commentaries that are really going to make the difference. I mentioned this the other night, I think, but I have one friend who's a scholar of Bhagavatam. He's a professor, and he's also a Sanskritist. And I asked him once, when we read Bhagavatam, I don't know Sanskrit, so when I read it in English translation, am I missing out on a lot? And he said, I'm very sorry, yes, you are. Right? He said, this is poetry that's just beyond. And there's one, he shared with me the name of one very highly respected professor of literature who was not of this faith, but who said the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is possibly the most beautiful poetry that's ever been composed in the history of mankind. Interesting, right? So it's not just a scriptural text, it's not just a yoga text, but in terms of art, it's something very unique. But I don't know of any other translations, but I'll say this. I know there's so many Bhagavad Gitas out there. I've read quite a few of them. Some of them, I believe, capture the essence of it. It's something I've been studying for 40 years. Some of them, I believe, capture the essence of it, and some of them, I think, are way off. They really don't understand what was going on. And the ones that I see, at least the modern translations that I see, that really capture the essence of it, they're people that are following in the wake of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. Right? In other words, they may be presenting information that's not in Prabhupada's commentaries, but they're presenting it in line with how he showed how to understand it. And I see that it has power. I see it's kind of like if you had 10 mango trees lined up, how do you know which is the healthy one? Well, it's producing the fruit, and the fruit is sweet, you know. And if others aren't giving fruit, you know, if someone comes along and says, there's all kind of crazy scholars out there, and there's people that criticize Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, but to me, it's just like, it's like you're looking at a mango tree and big, fresh, juicy mangoes are growing on it, and they're saying there's nothing growing on that tree. Come on. You just have to open up your eyes. You can see. So many people have had their lives really changed. And not just changed, but changed in the way that the Bhagavad Gita is directing one to evolve. I see it through Prabhupada's writing. So I have real faith in his translations. So I can't direct you anywhere else, even if I could. I don't know if I would. But what I would suggest is please stick with them. And, you know, there's a purport. I believe it's text 1, Canto 1, Chapter 5, text 11, if I'm correct. Or maybe 17. It may be 1:5:17. Hey, can you look that up, 1:5:17? You're on it? Let me see if this is the right one. This might be an eye opener for you, Satnam. Okay, this isn't the one. Let me 1:5:17. I'm gonna find it. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam database. Forgive my interruption, but I'm digging for something that I think is going to be worth it. So you're all staying with me? Okay. First canto, 5th chapter. Okay, it was text 11. This is the verse. Let me read the verse before it because it relates to the verse before it. Are you ready? It's so important, these verses. These are verses these were in the instructions given by Narada to Vyasa. These are when Vyasadeva, the person that compiled all the Vedic literature, when he was done, he was feeling, I don't think I did it right. And he was feeling disappointed. Something's not quite right. And his guru shared instructions with him to help him understand where he might have gone wrong. Thank you. And so these are part of what's being said. And he's saying that you gave a lot of books that taught people how to be good materialists. You didn't emphasize enough the deeply spiritual divine love that's really where it's all meant to go. So he shared some things about the quality of different types of literature. And he says, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for the crows. In other words, a garbage heap. It's heavy stuff. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. When you've really developed a taste for the spiritual, a taste for divine love, you lose interest in materialistic topics, and those are included within the Vedic texts. So he's saying you wrote a lot of that kind of literature, that's why you're not feeling satisfied. But there's another type of book that you've written, and you should do more of that and go deeper into that. And that's this verse I wanted to read to you. Text 11. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, this really gets to the heart of what I wanted to share with you. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified people who are thoroughly honest. Now, Prabhupada says in the commentary, let me find this. Please forgive the delay. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to read to Srila Prabhupada sharing in this commentary how he feels that the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam creates a revolution in the heart of the reader, and it can create a revolution in society. Okay, that this message has the potential to change the world, change the individual and change the world. So he's speaking about this. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is received only by the leading people of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. True? Yes? If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that now he's talking about his own translation and commentary. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail. And there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. So he's saying English isn't my first language. I'm doing my best. There's gonna be some, it won't be ideal. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration. And the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. Now he gives an analogy. When there is a fire in the house, the people that live in the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves and the neighbors understand the need, even though it's not expressed in the same language. This same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. So, if to your own taste it's not as beautifully poetic as you would hope, my answer would be, but the essential message is there. And I believe nobody's better at conveying it than Srila Prabhupada. So it would be my recommendation to stick with it and see where it goes. Thank you, Satnam. Appreciate it. What a kirtan they got going tonight, huh? Woo. Okay, any more questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So you mentioned at the beginning this is a tradition of questions and answers. So my question is there a point in this journey to moksha where questions and, more important, answers become obstacles on the path?
We see examples of very elevated people still engaging in questioning. And sometimes we see even God himself become the questioner. So much encouragement is shown for this path. I don't believe that the process of questions and answers ever becomes an obstacle, but it's the quality. It's the quality of the questions that are important. The higher the quality of the question, the higher the potential for the highest quality answer. And so the question is, are we asking the right questions? As long as the question is sincere and is sincere and on the right subject, right, with the right motive, then no, I see no cause for harm. No cause for concern that it'll be harmful or problematic. Yes.
You continue.
Just a short add-on question. So, you think that the nature of reality can be perceived by mind, by questions or by answers, by cognition?
The mind can interfere with that cognition. That cognition is the nature of the self. That's the chit, aspect of the self. Inherently, clear knowledge is our nature. It's covered by the mind. And the questioning answers is, in a sense, to get the mind out of the way. So can it be perceived in the mind? Well, the mind can cease to be an obstacle to the self understanding themselves. That's how I would phrase it.
Hare Krishna. I got like a bit confused in a couple of stuff. I did a course in a school, yoga teacher training, and Bhakti is one of the 5 tenets of this school. And we were in Hare Krishna community for a month, studying at the same time. And so at the beginning I didn't understand why Bhakti in the middle of the yoga, because the goal of yoga is the enlightenment, samādhi. And in Bhakti, if I understood, please correct if I'm wrong, we just add service of God and all this union. I'm not sure, so that's a bit of a confusion. And then at the same time, it made a lot of sense, because when we were in this process of the teacher training, Radhanath Swami came to chant. He gave us a lesson on the Bhagavad Gita, and then he spent like 1 hour chanting, and people were just crying, and I was one of them, like non-stopping. And then we couldn't understand why, like, we doing this asana and all this path of liberation and talking so much, and suddenly he comes and he seems he just took off like a part of me, or like something, that nothing could take. So there is all of the, and then I ended up here now. So yeah. What are the odds? But something about Bhakti and this path of liberation, enlightenment, they kind of walk together. Can you explain a bit around it?
What is your name? Kwani. Guani. Tuani. Tuani. Where are you from? Brazil. Thank you, Tuani. You just came from the Govardhan Eco Village recently.
Yeah, I did.
You took a teacher training there in the month of February? Okay, wonderful. That's so nice. That place, I spend a lot of time there. I just spent the whole month of January there. Yes. Yeah. Did you attend the Flower Festival in Mumbai? So I was there. Yeah. Yeah. So spent our time in the Eco Village, and then we went to the Flower Festival and then moved on. You went to the Flower Festival and then you went to the Eco Village. You took our spots after we left. And Radhanath Swami is someone that I've known for 30 years and who I see as my guru. And I see him as one of the greatest souls walking this earth. And so when you explain the experience you had when he chanted, I entirely understand, I believe, what you experienced. So let's talk about yoga. Your question is a broad question and a wonderful question. We could spend the rest of the night talking about it, and maybe we should. You and I want to make sure I'm repeating what you said accurately. But if I understand correctly, you're saying you had an understanding about yoga, and that it was meant to go to samadhi, right? And then bhakti, so samadhi, when we use it, now literally the term samādhi. So sama means evenness, and di refers to the meditation or to the thoughts. So samādhi means that there's an evenness in one's meditation, that the meditation is not going up and down, but it's steady. Now, that's literally what the term means. Different yogis or different schools of yoga will use that term in different ways. Now, Patanjali, the sage Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, when he's saying samadhi, he means a state of trance, a state of awareness where you have no longer any external awareness. You don't know what's going on outside because you're in a state of trance. You're totally have this inner focus. That's samadhi. And so that is considered like the last limb, of Patanjali's yoga. And in samadhi, one can achieve a state. He doesn't use the word moksha or mukti. He says kaivalya. So kaivalya means that one is no longer influenced by the external energies anymore. And he says, so when the mind is still, then the seer, the self, experiences their own true nature, abides in their own true nature. This is what yoga is about. It's about, I have this true nature of the self. It's blissful by nature. My mind is interfering with it. So I need a strategy to deal with the mind so that I can experience my true nature again. So we say yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind for the purpose of the self experiencing its own true nature. Does that make sense to you? That's good? Okay. Different schools of yoga have different strategies for how to deal with the mind. Patanjali said, still the mind, right? Still the mind. Hold it on one object. Hold it so firmly on one object that you lose awareness of everything external. Go deeper still, so much so that you lose even awareness that I am separate from the object, observing the object, and that only the object is in your field of awareness. And in that state, the mind becomes still. And when the mind is still, you begin to feel your nature underneath. And when you feel your own nature underneath, you feel your own bliss. And when you feel your own bliss, you realize it wasn't necessary for me to find my bliss through anything external. I was confused. All of that is untrue. It was, and you know it because you're feeling your nature. You realize this is where the happiness lies, not in any false conception of self, not in any egoistic endeavor, not in any external object. So, but that's Patanjali's particular strategy of yoga, still the mind. Now, there are other schools of yoga that approach the mind in other ways. They have different strategies. So for them, samadhi may not mean necessarily a state of trance, but samadhi may mean that their mind is active but always moving in the same direction, right? So like a car moving on a straight road is going steady, even though it's moving. You don't necessarily have to hold the car still. But the point is, it's not driving this way and driving that way, it's going steady. So in Bhakti Yoga, the mind is going in one steady direction. And that is in the direction of love for the object of love, or for Krishna, Radha and Krishna. So how do we really understand what this bhakti is and how is it yoga? Right? And I think actually this is exactly what we're starting to talk about in our, I'm doing classes every morning from 9 until 10 here. There was, I've been sharing this, most nights somehow I get to this because it's such an important thing. That the person who wrote all, there's a saying in the circles of Vedanta. You understand Vedanta? A little bit. Okay, let's take one step back. If you look at this whole, you come to India and you look around, right? And there's different religions. There's Hinduism, there's Sikhism, there's Jainism, and others. And then there are other spiritual traditions or religions that came from outside India. Buddhism was within India. But all of these ones that grew out of India are connected to a body of literature in one way or another. I might be overgeneralizing just a little bit, but it's safe to say, at least for the most part, that all of these different spiritual traditions were influenced by a body of books, a body of knowledge that we could call the Vedic literature. And that includes a collection of 4 texts called the Vedas. Connected to those texts is 108 books called the Upanishads. Then there's one text that's a big epic story called the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita is within that. And then there's 18 collections of stories called the Puranas. There's also a very important text called the Vedanta Sutra, which summarizes the Upanishads teachings. If you take all of that together, we could call that the Vedic literature. It comprises something like 520,000 Sanskrit verses. Okay? This is a lot of knowledge. All of that knowledge, they say that that is not created by any human being, but that it's eternal. And that a qualified yogi can connect to that knowledge, access it, in a sense, download it, and share it. Sounds crazy, but you seem like a faithful person. Possible? Okay, good. All right. Possible. So there is a saying that all this within the school, basically Hinduism is the one that has, Hinduism is a modern term, but Hinduism is really built directly, not just indirectly or not just influenced by, but built directly on the study of these texts. But when we say Hindu, it can mean so many different things. Pretty much what you see all around India based on Hindu, that we call Hindu, is based directly from these texts. And there are so many sages, wise people, speakers, and yogis of different types that draw from these texts. They all do. So there's a saying, there was once the sage that downloaded them and edited them and compiled these books. His name was Vyasadeva. Vyas. Veda Vyas. Every yogi must know this person. Okay, you must. It's like if you, I don't know what even to compare it to. It's like if you study, I don't know. If I said you study English literature and you don't find out who Shakespeare is, it wouldn't convey enough of how important he is. So the saying is that all the sages have borrowed from the sky of the mind of the great sage Vyasadeva. Right? In other words, his mind is like the sky, there's no limit to it. You know, and the intelligence of Vyasadeva and what he shared is practically unlimited. There's no sage that's writing text and sharing teachings that hasn't borrowed from him. Right? So he's like super duper important. Right? And so different schools are interpreting his text in different ways. Right? But I always come to this one point because he himself intentionally clarified how to understand his own books. And he did that in a text called the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And there you have a group of sages that are all saying, how do we understand yoga best? What leads to that? What leads to the highest good of all mankind? What leads to the complete satisfaction of the self? Right? This is a question of Vedanta. Right? If we look at these texts, what do they say? Because they're so vast, it can be sometimes hard to tell exactly what they're saying. And this is key. Your name again was Tuani. Tuani, this is really important. that these texts speak different than we're used to in the Western world. Rather than just saying this is right and this is wrong, they come and they speak to you at whatever level that you're at, and they encourage you. You understand? If you're a very materialistic person and you want the things of this world, it's going to give you teachings that are suitable for you. It's not going to stress the highest thing to you. It's going to stress the next step for you to take. And if you read those books, it seems like that next step is the best step in the world that you can take. But there are higher steps that's one supposed to take. And so then the question is, which ones are pointing to the highest thing? And so the sages, they find one sage among them that they say, you understand all these texts the best. You've been especially blessed. You help us understand. And he says, Savai Pungsa Paro Dharmo. Savai Pungsa, for all humanity, Paro Dharmo, the highest Dharma, Yato Bhakti Adhoksaja, is offering bhakti, is offering love to Adhoksaja, to the Supreme Lord who's beyond the realm, the reach of our senses. And that such love and such service must be offered ahoitiki apratiyata, without any motivation, without any interruption, yayatma supersidity, in order to completely satisfy the self. So this is the beginning of a text that's going to go on for 18,000 verses, that where the sage Vyasadeva is illustrating again and again and again how, yes, one can find, if you go to the Vedic literature's teachings on how to live a happier materialistic life, as a good person, as a sensitive person. And yes, there are higher teachings within this literature that can teach you how to go into samādhi, how to detach yourself from this world, how to exist on a plane where you're no longer disturbed by the ups and downs of this world and find peace. There are texts that are going to speak to you as if that's the best thing you could do in the world. But there are other texts that are sharing that there's something more. And if your heart is open to it, then it will be revealed to you. And that's the message of divine love. Right? So there'll be texts that show that ultimately the inner nature of the self is Satchit and Ananda. And Ananda is its fullest expression is in love, and particularly in love for the perfect object of love, for the Supreme, for the Absolute Truth, for Krishna. And by loving that Supreme object, you love everything in connection with that object, and that is everything there is, or everyone there is. So Krishna is the root of all existence. If you're love, and by love, when one loves, there's one verse written by a great sage, one of the great teachers of Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami. Let me see if I can remember it. I always need the first verse, first word. I'm not going to try to find it. But what he prays, he says, just as young boys, that their minds spontaneously, they go to young girls. And just as young girls, their minds spontaneously go to young boys. You know, when you're young and you fall in love, did you ever fall in love? Okay. Okay. So when you fall in love, especially when you're young, you're like, oh, it takes your mind, right? Even if you want to bring your mind somewhere else, you can. It keeps going there. That's what yoga means, is the focus of the mind on one object. And so there's no more powerful way of your mind to become focused but through love. So he prays, just as young boys' minds go to young girls and young girls' minds go to young boys, may my mind always go to you, Sri Krishna. In the same way, with the same enthusiasm, with the same natural pull, with the same effortless, full absorption, may my mind always go to you, right? So devotion is, in this sense, the highest yoga. Now, this is real important to your question. The Bhagavad Gita is a text that it came at a certain time. It became emphasized at a certain time, where it looks at all the teachings that are before it, the teachings in the Vedas and the teachings in the Upanishads, and it helps us make more sense of them. So you have a person in Arjuna who's struggling to understand, how will I become free of all my anxiety? I want to be a yogi. But doesn't a yogi walk away from the world and sit in a cave and meditate? I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And then Krishna says that's one way people practice yoga, and here's another way that people practice yoga, and here's another way. There's this dharma and that dharma and another dharma, all these different ways. And he's telling Arjuna, but there's the way for you is to engage with yogic insight, engaged in this world, doing your duties in this world. But Arjuna's thinking like, I want to walk away from my duty. And so there's a tension in the first 5 chapters about Arjuna trying to grasp this idea. He's thinking I should be out going into samadhi, sitting in meditation and going into trance. And in the 6th chapter, Krishna describes that. He says, in order to go into trance like that, let me tell you what you need to be like. You ready to hear? He says that you have to have the type of mind that's really peaceful. He says one way to understand that mind is that they see stones, like some pebbles, and gold. They see them the same. Now, most people don't see pebbles and gold as the same. Most people see pebbles as something that's pretty much useless and I don't need. And most people see gold as something that can change their life. Right? If I gave you a big block of gold, anybody know the value of gold? Let's say we had a piece of gold that's like as big as this speaker, pure gold. What would that be worth? Anyone know?
No.
Huh?
It's like $5,000.
$5,000 an ounce? And if it was pure gold that much, I don't know how many ounces it would be. Let's say you even had more gold. Let's say you had like $10 million, $20 million worth of gold, $200 million worth of gold. Most people are not going to see that the same as they see pebbles. Right? Most people would, like for instance, if I came up to you and I said, Tuani, I'm going to get it. If I said, Tuani, here is $200 million, would you react the same way as if I said, here's a pebble? Or when I gave you $200 million, would your heart start to beat faster? Would you start to call people on the telephone and say, everything's changed? Right? You understand? But if you brought that $200 million to some of these yogis way up in the forest here that have found peace in their mind and gave them that money, they would say, you can keep it. What am I going to do? Go down to Delhi and buy some clothes, get a big house. A bar is 170,000. Okay. So you understand? To them, stones and gold is the same. But then Krishna says something else to Arjuna that's even scarier. It even strikes him, I think, with more fear that I won't be able to do this yoga. Welcome, Maharaj. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence here. He says to Arjuna, that's one level of advancement, but to do this, you really need to come to this next level. That's not just seeing stones and gold as the same. That's seeing people the same. Seeing people that wish you well and people that wish you harm the same. And Arjuna had some enemies in this world that really were cruel to him and to the ones that he loved. That's why this whole battle was taking place. Even Arjuna had taken vows that it will come back and fight. And on that battlefield, he's just about to go into that battle when he broke down and think, I want to walk off into the forest and be a yogi. So he hears this, and then Krishna begins to describe what that life looks like, that you go out in seclusion, you sit all alone, you make your yoga asana. They say you take a skin of a deer, you put that down. Then you take kusha grass, you put that on top. You sit there with a very straight back. You stare at the tip of the nose, and you control the mind. Every time the mind wanders, he says, Yato nischalati, manas chanchalam astiram. That wherever the mind may wander due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Hard work, alone, in the forest, spending years trying to go into samadhi. Very hard work. And Arjuna hears this whole description, and only then does it really occur to him, oh no, I'm in so much anxiety, I'm suffering so much. I know yoga is the answer, but I don't think I can do that. You understand? So then Krishna says, it's okay, Arjuna. With a suitable practice and detachment, you can be a yogi. And the last verse of that chapter is one of the most important verses in the Bhagavad Gita, because it's where the message in the Bhagavad Gita shifts. The first 6 chapters, Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna that you should do yoga, but not by walking away from the world. And then the next 6 chapters are all about Bhakti Yoga, about the mind and the heart being drawn to Krishna in a powerful way, being always connected, and how one can stay connected. So this verse is the gateway into that next section of the Bhagavad Gita. Would you like to hear that verse? Tuani? Okay. He said, Yoginam api sarvesham. Amongst all the different varieties of yogis, there's many different ways people are practicing yoga. Yoginam api sarvesham. Amongst all the different types of yogis, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatain antar atmana. Antar means inner. Inner atmana, in the inner self. One who's abiding me deep within themselves. Abiding in me, Krishna said, right? Abiding in God, in themselves, in their own heart, right? One who's abiding me deep within their own self. Shraddhavan, with great faith. Bhajate yo mam, worshiping me, right? One who deep within their heart is worshiping me with great faith, always thinking of me. He says, Same yukta tamo mataha. Now yukta means connected. The word yoga is based off the root yuj, or to connect like this. Same yukta tamo mat, yukta uttama, he's saying, the most connected. He says they are the most connected to me in yoga, O Arjuna. The ones that are thinking of me deep in themselves. This is Bhakti Yoga, right? You understand? So the idea is, yoga can be practiced in many different ways and on many different levels. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that the most connected is the one that, you see, 15th chapter, the whole 15th chapter. This Bhagavad Gita, it's just everything's there. It's just in one short book, relatively short book, 700 verses. Everything gets laid out. And in this, he wants to help us understand that, yes, finding peace in this world by detaching yourself from everything material, that's a real yogic practice. One can do that and one can find peace, but there's more. He calls that confidential knowledge, understanding the self, understanding that I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm made of spiritual energy. All of these material identities that I thought I was, man, woman, black, white, American, Indian, none of them are me. I'm this eternal spirit that's beyond that. That's confidential knowledge. Most people never discover that in this life. But he said, but there's more confidential and most confidential knowledge. There's a deeper secret hidden inside these yogic texts. And if one plugs into this, they get the most. And what does that look like? He said is that there's understanding that there's a person behind it all. There's a beautiful person behind it all. There's a beautiful, loving person behind it all. And Krishna's saying, that's me, Arjuna, your friend, right? And turning to me becomes the highest connection, the highest yoga. So in the 15th chapter, he's saying how to do that. How can I abide in you all the time? How can I always be thinking of you within myself? How can I understand you as the ultimate object of worship? And so that gets, there's so much, after that 6th chapter, there's so much in the Bhagavad Gita explaining all this. But I just want to read you one section where it gets really clear. So he's trying to say, see me everywhere, see me in everything. He says some things like this. I'll read some of the verses. He says, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world. There's nothing like the sun in this world, isn't it true? Right? Big, glowing, energy and spreading its rays, giving life to everything, light to everything, warmth to everything. He says the splendor of that sun, the splendor of the sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. Right? They can't just, it's not just by themselves that they're there. There's something holding them up. Right? I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all the vegetables. I'm the fire of digestion. He's saying all the most basic things in life, right? He's more than this, but he's just saying take the most basic things. The sun, the moon, the fire, the food, the digestion. Without that, we've got nothing, right? He's saying all of these basic things that you engage with every day, I'm behind them all. I'm supporting them all. The planet that you're on, I'm holding it up. He goes on. I'm the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming to digest the 4 kinds of food. And then he says this very important verse. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all, this is real important now, because this is the question of how do we understand Vedanta? How do we understand all these ancient books? By all the Vedas, what is to be known? He says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. It all leads to understanding this person behind everything. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the knower of the Vedanta. Indeed, I am the compiler. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. He'll continue, and he goes on about this for quite a bit. But then I want to read the last 2 verses of the chapter for you. Okay? He says, whoever knows me as the Purushottama. Purushottama. Uttama means like the most or the highest. And Purusha means person. So whoever knows me as the supreme person, the Purushottama. He says, whoever knows me as the supreme person without doubting is the knower of everything. Now, what does that mean? There's many ways that we could explain that, but the fundamental way we can explain that is God manifests in different ways according to how people wish to know God. He'll say earlier in this text, Ye yata mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. As people surrender to me, in that way I reciprocate with them. Some people want God, but they don't want a person. The idea that there's some being that ontologically is in another superior category than myself, and who eternally I have a relationship of dependence on. I don't like that idea, because the people that I've been dependent on in the past have often let me down. So I shudder to think that I might have an eternal ontological relationship where I'm dependent on some big power. And what if that power is not nice, is not sweet, is not kind, is not compassionate, is not good? So I recognize that there has to be something beyond the mundane. But I like to approach that aspect of that supreme that has no attributes, has no personality, has no form. I want to go into samadhi and feel oneness with that energy. So Krishna says, if that's the way you want to approach me, without the personality part, I'll reciprocate with you. And some people want to go beyond that and recognize that there's a divine intelligence that's holding this all together, that's making all this move. If you want to know that part of God, it's called Paramatma, then he'll reciprocate and reveal that to you. But if you want to know the Purushottama, the ultimate person behind it all, that all the Vedas are meant to know, then I'll share that with you. I'll share myself with you in that most personal way too. So he says again, I'll go back to this verse now. Whoever knows me as the supreme person without doubting is the knower of everything. They know all the different aspects of the supreme. The non-personal aspect, Brahman, the localized aspect that's supporting everything, Paramatma, and the one that's beyond it all, that it all comes from, the personal form, Sri Krishna. If they know Sri Krishna, they know everything. It's kind of like Brahman, the impersonal aspect of God, the localized active aspect of God. They're two circles within the bigger circle of the person of Krishna. So when you know Krishna, you know everything. Does that make sense? Okay. So now where does that lead? Knowing God in that personal way. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Person without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore, I want to read the Sanskrit to this. So good. Yomam evam asam mudho janati purushottamaha sa sarvavid bhajantimam. Sa sarvavid. Sarvavid means understanding all this. Bhajantimam, they worship me. Sarva bhavena bharata. Bharata means Arjuna. Sarva bhavena means with, you've heard the word bhava before, right? So bhava means, it's with feeling, with love. Sarva bhavena means with full love, with a heart completely full of love. When someone knows me as the Supreme Person, they know everything. And the result of that is that they worship me with a heart full of love. Okay? Then he says the next verse, Tuani, is very important. You ready to take it in? This is very important. This answers so many questions. Everybody's benefiting from your question. Here's the next verse. Text 1520, last text of the 15th chapter. Let me find it now. He says, it's not opening up the Sanskrit. Anyway, let me see how much of the Sanskrit I remember. The most important part is he says, Iti guyatam shastram. Oh, I got it now. Iti guyatamam shastram. Iti guya. Do you know what guya means? There's a Sanskrit word guya, or sometimes we say gufa. There's a place not far from here called Vaishishta Gufa. Have you heard of this? It means a cave, the cave of the sage Vaishishta. They call it Vaishishta Gufa. Guya or Gufa, it means secret, confidential, like a cave, like something hidden in a cave. Right? So he says, Iti Guya Tamam. Again, Tamam, Uttamam. This is the greatest, the highest, the supreme. Guya Tamam, the supreme secret, the greatest secret. Shastram. Shastra means the sacred text, all these Vedic literatures. This is the greatest secret of all the Vedic literatures. To know that there's a supreme person that's behind everything, and to know that I can connect with that person with a heart full of love. This is the supreme secret of all the Vedic literature. This is the highest teaching. This is the most confidential knowledge there is. So this is yoga. This idea of bhakti. And I'm going to share something with you, Tuani, that when you were at that Govardhaniko village, that person, Radhanath Swami, he's a person that has this feeling in his heart. He's a person that over 50 years ago discovered this path of bhakti, and he approached it with full sincerity and with full humility. And he moves through this world through that wisdom. He respects every living being. He's kind to every living being. His mind he's lost a taste for anything of the distractions of this world. And he's absorbed himself in chanting that mantra. And so his whole being has been fully transformed and vitalized and permeated with love. So when he chanted that mantra, that's why you had such powerful feelings. You cried yourself. That was this deepest secret. He's understood it. And when he was vibrating on that level, it vibrated you on that level and you felt something very special. So this isn't just talk. You know, this is, we're talking earlier today. How do we know that this stuff is real? If there's a tree, a mango tree in front of you, and there's ripe mangoes growing on it, it doesn't matter who comes along and says, no, that tree's not healthy, that tree doesn't work, that tree's not a real tree. Look at the fruit, right? And in my 40 years of practicing bhakti, I've seen the mature fruit. I've seen people that have fully been transformed and have fully embodied it. I've seen people on their deathbed speak the greatest knowledge and be in the greatest bliss. You know, I've seen people express on their deathbed that there's nothing in their heart but love and gratitude. I've seen the result. I've seen the fruit of it. And so therefore I accept the Bhagavad Gita's teachings. That in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says to Arjuna is, yes, there are many different yoga paths, but sarva dharman parityajat. Take all of this dharma, and you can leave it all behind. Just do one thing. Sarva dharma parityajat mam ekam sharanam vraja. Just take shelter of me. Just surrender unto me, and I will take care of everything. So Bhakti Yoga, I think sometimes within the Western world of yoga, people don't really understand what it is. They think it's something nice, like you sit around the campfire and you play the guitar and you kumbaya and hey, we sing these nice songs together. But it's not the serious yoga. No, it's the serious yoga. The greatest scholars, the greatest philosophers have written dense books of philosophy to understand it. And the greatest yogis, those with the greatest self-control, the greatest control of the mind, the greatest control of the senses have been bhakti yogis. So it's not just for sentimental people, it's for everyone. Because every living being has a connection to that Purushottama, to that supreme being in their heart. And it's just a matter of waking it up. And that can be wakened up through the chanting of these holy names. Okay, Tuani, that was such a good question. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll take it with me.
Take it with you.
For sure.
Please come in the mornings if you're free.
I was here this morning.
You were there this morning.
I was here this
Okay, good. So we'll be more of that in the coming days. Thank you very much, Tuani. Thank you, everyone. I had a wonderful time with you here tonight, Maharaj. My thanks goes to always and forever. It's not only a joy, but it's really one of the greatest honors of my life to be able to serve your divine vision and your devotion in this way. From my heart, I mean that completely. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. If you'd like to connect to more of these previous Q&As or future ones, Gabriella here can connect you to that. Please enjoy this prasadam. Please enjoy the kirtan. Please come in the mornings. Thank you all very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.